Hi, Dr.
What's
B.
up?
How
What's
are
up?
you?
Good to see you.
I know I've been MIA with you, but I've been studying.
I know. I saw the message. I'm glad to have you back on the sessions, though.
So I finished my first round of UWorld doing the reverse pyramid that you taught us. So I'm
Yeah.
doing now the second pass, and I applied for the CCSE that my school requires.
Hmm.
I still don't have a date, but it should be around the 20th of October. Um, and I just wanted to know like when will be like the right time to start doing. I haven't done any of the NBMEs. Like when will be the right time to start doing a practice test?
What was your average for the first pass at UWorld?
54.
Okay.
And like
But-
the last, I don't know, like the last week I was doing like 60, 65. Oh, hold on.
And that's on your second pass, the 60 to 65 range?
Um, no, like the first pass, when I was about to finish, that's what I was scoring. And now I've been having like 60, 65, 75. So
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like your score went up about 10, 15% between maybe like a month ago and now.
yeah.
Um, right now is actually the perfect time. So there's a couple of different recommendations. So I'll just kind of list them out for you so you understand my thought process. So in terms of taking your first NBME, you have two options. So at conclusion of first pass of UWorld, if you take it much before that, generally for the vast majority of students, if I say 80-20, 80% of students are not going to be ready to take one until they've completed the first pass of UWorld. Just statistically speaking, if you take it earlier, totally fine, but it's most of the time you're not going to be passing or anywhere near the range that you want to be. So it ends up being disheartening for most students, and it's not usually worth it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So that's one option. The other option is taking it when averaging 65 to 70% on your practice questions, because that's telling me that you're also getting pretty close to passing it. And so even though you might not be right there yet, maybe you're like low 200s range, you're at least in shooting range to be able to see where your weaknesses and your strengths are beyond just the metrics that your UWorld gives you. Because then with your practice test, you can see like your EPC scores, you can break it down by section, and it will give you some useful data. Prior to that, though, I mean, most of the time students are wasting their practice tests. I'm sure you've probably heard that before, like, oh, I don't want to waste an NBME.
Yeah.
And it's accurate because there's only so many of them. You need to know them cold. You need to utilize them within a reasonable time frame to your exam. Most people I don't have taking NBMEs more than at most like 60 to 90 days out from their exam, and many people within 30 days is when they're putting the most effort into the NBMEs. And it's simply because, I mean, these are the best representation that we have of what to expect on your test. Will it be the same as your test? No. Is it going to be the exact same writers as your test? Sometimes, right? Like sometimes these are just old retired questions. Sometimes they're ones that didn't quite make the cut for the test. Whatever the scenario is, they're the best that we got, unfortunately. They're not perfect. Found mistakes in them year after year. It happens. But at the end of the day, it's what we got, and you want to leverage those on the back end for sure.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
So like let's say I take one, I don't know, like next week. Would it be a good, well, no, I should be doing it based on the average of my UWorlds then.
Well, you've met both criteria essentially. So you're scoring around 65, right? And whenever you're on your second pass, your UWorld percentage is not going to be reflective of how you're actually scoring. So take the average of the last 200 questions that you've taken,
Okay.
see where you're at. As long as those are 200 randomized questions, they're not all like cardiology or all whatever, like they're not all one topic. Randomize those against the 200, and then you'll be able to see approximately where you're at. You need at least 5 blocks to give you enough data points. It's about 3 to 4% of your bank to be able to tell that you're on the upward trajectory. I
Okay.
have a pretty good feeling that you're going to be there right now. And so you're right at the time range where it's reasonable to take an MBME. What can I do for you, Matt?
So like for my rotations and my shelves, I'm obviously, doing the UWorld questions, and like since I had psych first, which was like a lighter rotation, I was able to like get ahead and do I got through all the PEDS questions for a second time, and I am on Monday. All the medicine questions are done. So when I'm flagging, like, am I going to reset this bank to study for step 2, or should I be, because there's questions where it's like, I don't need to see this again in 3 weeks when I'm studying for my shelf, but like, I should probably see this again when I study for step 2.
That's going to be, so my advice for this actually varies depending on the student. Right now, your track record and your history of how you've been scoring is going to, obviously you're going to know a lot of the information from the QBank. And so seeing the questions 2 times prior to your shelf obviously gives you a better chance of passing than it does of not passing. If when we get to the end of all your shelf exams, do you have 1 month for dedicated, or how's your schedule set up?
I know that I have April off. I have surgery in May. After that, I'm done. I don't know when I have to take step 2 by.
Gotcha.
But I'm
Most
assuming
people usually take it around June or July, so you should have some time.
Yeah, I'll probably have a whole month, a little more after surgery.
Perfect. Let me just drop some notes here while we're talking, and we'll keep it rolling. And wondering when to reset question bank versus do the flag question step 2. Okay, so there's kind of a couple different ways to look at this, and I'll tell you which way that I would say is probably best for you. So option 1 is that during the rotation, you redo each flagged question prior to your shelf exam. Option 2 is during the rotation, you redo every question prior to your shelf exam. Option 3, during the rotation, you redo every missed question prior to your shelf exam. So let me actually put these in order of kind of like what's optimum. Okay, so if you look at it like this, what's going to get the most bang for your buck in terms of time allocation is redoing the flagged questions, reverse pyramid style. If you're short on time, then you can redo every missed question prior to your shelf. And if you have a ton of time and you're still scoring really poorly, then you can redo every question. That's usually a little bit excessive, but it is an option. And then, so which one of these have you been doing currently?
So like for PEDS, I redid every flagged question, and I was flagging them like pretty aggressively. Like I flagged almost everything where it wasn't like I was getting this obviously correct. And I mean, I probably won't have the luxury of having that much time again for the other, like for medicine, there's like twice as many questions. I mean,
Almost
I guess
3 times.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and I already did all those questions, but I also flagged those, like I would flag like 30 probably out of 40 or something
That's
like
pretty
that.
reasonable.
Yeah, 30 to 35. I mean, just using the standard protocol. So, I mean, I have a lot of questions to do. So I probably planned on redoing all the flagged ones. I mean, IM is what I want to do. So it's like, if there was one to like do every single question again, it'd probably be that. And it's like 60% of step 2. So I guess that would make sense. But yeah, recently I've been doing I've been redoing the flagged ones.
Okay, gotcha.
Because that's almost all of them anyways.
And that's exactly, it's supposed to be like that. Like,
okay.
Think about it like this. If you're redoing your flags and you're able to cut out, let's just say, so if there's blocks of 40 questions, so that's essentially 100 blocks on your question bank. If you're flagging 30 out of 40, that means that you're flagging 3/4 of the block, so 75% of it. So essentially you saved yourself from taking 25 blocks of 40 questions. Essentially you saved yourself 1,000 questions over the course of the question bank.
Yeah.
And some of them, I mean, obviously some questions are so obvious, you don't need to see it again. It's just like, okay, I know exactly how that med works. I'm not going to forget that, or whatever it is, you know?
Mhm.
And so if you can save yourself that 25% essentially by speeding yourself up 1,000 questions, then I mean, it's totally worth it. So that's why I always, optimally, I would recommend for almost every student to redo the flagged questions. If you have the time. Most people run short on time with rotations, and then they only get to do the missed questions and not the ones that they were iffy on or that took too long.
Yeah.
And so that's why also a lot of people are very close to honoring, but not actually kind of like kicking that 120 out of 125 score down.
Mhm.
And then as for resetting the UWorld Step 2 question bank, there's two options. So option number one is to not reset it. And so you can, during dedicated, you can focus on your flag/missed questions. Option two is to reset it after rotations. During dedicated, you can redo all questions. And so obviously with these two options, this is going to be very time intensive. And then for option number one, if you're scoring close enough to your ideal score on your NBME after rotations, I'd rather you focus on CMS and NBME forms if strapped for time. So the question becomes almost not, should I reset my UWorld Step 2 question bank? It's, am I done with it? Which obviously knowing you, you're going to be done with the question bank going into your dedicated, which is amazing. But then if you start taking all the CMS forms, I mean, you have over a couple thousand, like 2,000-3,000 questions at least from CMS. So that's going to take you, if you're doing 100 a day, it's going to take you 20 days, something like that, ballpark wise, to get through all those. You have your NBMEs, you have 9 through 15. I mean, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 7 tests right there. You've basically just chewed up a whole month between those two resources. So if everything goes according to plan, you've already seen all the UWorld questions one time for your rotation, a flag time prior to your shelf, and then by the time that you get to your dedicated, if you're already done with all of your UWorld and the second pass of it, then you're in a superb position where you can actually focus on pretty much nailing the actual CMS and NBME forms that are going to be the closest to your exam. And then if there's any weak points, we can always go back through and spot target depending on your EPC scores. But either way, I mean, doing UWorld questions within 1 month of your exam can be only improved by utilizing essentially NBME garnered resources. So you have to do one or the other, right? Like you're not going to stop doing questions. And so then the question becomes, if I have unlimited time and I'm in a great position, what should I focus on? Well, it's the NBME stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. The CMS forms, is that like the shelf specific NBMEs?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so I'll probably have seen those. I mean, for peds, I took all of them, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you most likely will have, but the CMS forms, just for ballpark wise, you're probably going to be scoring like mid 80s on those whenever you get to your dedicated, because maybe close to your shelf exam, you'd be able to push it to 90, but you're going to forget stuff, obviously,
Yeah.
between now and then. So let's say you forget an additional 10% of the information. Out of the 50 questions on the CMS form, if you're scoring, let's just say 80 to make it easy, that means each one of those, you're going to have the opportunity to gain 10 extra points of knowledge that you didn't have. And so I would say it's irrational for somebody with your speed to only go through even 2 of those per day. That's 100 questions. And it's because the CMS forms you can review much quicker than you can UWorld. The explanations are shorter, the questions are shorter. You can basically click and move on most of the questions. You either know it or you don't know it. So, I mean, you might even be able to push it to above 150 plus per day, which is totally reasonable close to your exam.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I would say we can game plan it once it gets closer, but this is just kind of like my ideal projection based upon knowing you of what I would expect.
All right. Yeah. So Yeah, I'll pretty much just keep doing it the way I'm doing it, planning on not resetting it, because there's probably no way I'm going to have to do that. Or I won't have time, even if, I mean, I wouldn't have time anyway. So
No, I mean, and I just don't think it's, and I'm going to add here, very time intensive and likely unnecessary.
Yeah.
If you've done the reverse pyramid protocol properly. And so the thing that then kind of comes is like, well, the people that end up resetting their question bank is because they've not been flagging appropriately, essentially. And believe it or not, I mean, I have people that every single year are like, oh my God, somehow I forgot to flag anything. So now I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, now we're kind of stuck. We either have the option of resetting your whole question bank, or we have to just do your missed questions. Just doing your missed questions is going to miss about an extra 30% of knowledge that you could have gained from the resource.
Yeah.
So it ends up being a problem along that kind of spectrum. Thankfully, you're not in that position. I would much rather somebody be hyper aggressive with flagging than flagging 10 questions per block. Like, that's just not gonna, there's no point in that, because if you flag appropriately, it should be more than the number of questions you miss, right? Because that's part of the criteria.
Yeah,
And
no.
so it only makes perfect sense that you should be flagging a percentage above that. It's basically to just increase the catchment area for the amount of questions that are worthwhile to redo.